During those moments, I remember thinking there was a very good chance I would be torn apart or shot to death with my own weapon. I thought of my 4 daughters who might lose their dad. I remain grateful that no member of Congress had to go through the violent assault that I experienced that day.
The first hearing is over for the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. It featured emotional testimony from 4 police officers on the trauma they endured defending the Capitol.
Now, the hearing also featured new video of the riot, and we need to warn you that some viewers could find this video in the report disturbing and graphic. Ryan Nobles reports.
So help you God.
From its opening moments, the first hearing of the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th insurrection was a jarring display of the violence on that day. Never before seen video and clips previously released showing frontline officers dragged into the mob and beaten and then crushed between doors. One had his gun taken from him, while another was sprayed with chemicals. That video was coupled with the raw memories of the officers who experienced it.
I could feel myself losing oxygen and recall thinking to myself, this is how I'm going to die, defending this entrance.
All 4 of the officers who testified and many of their other colleagues are still suffering from the physical and mental scars from that day, in addition to the brute violence.
I heard chanting from some in the crowd, "Get his gun," and kill him with his own gun.
The mob was also racist, screaming at this officer.
20 people joined in screaming, "Boo!" No one had ever called me a while wearing the uniform of a Capitol Police officer.
And these officers made it clear the terrorists were there with a specific purpose.
No, man, this is our house. President Trump invited us here. We're here to stop the steal.
The root causes of that day are an important part of the mission of the committee, and the role of the former president to fire up his supporters is part of their investigation. Representative Liz Cheney, one of only 2 Republicans on the panel, vowed to follow the investigation wherever it leads them.
We must also know what happened every minute of that day in the White House. Every phone call, every conversation, every meeting leading up to, during, and after the attack.
Republican leader Kevin McCarthy saying he didn't watch the hearing, instead holding a press conference beforehand blaming Speaker Pelosi.
On January 6th, these brave officers were put into a vulnerable and impossible position because of the leadership at the top has failed.
And Alabama Republican Mo Brooks, who spoke at the rally on January 6th before the Capitol riot.
You have anything to say about the Capitol police officers that testified?
I didn't watch it. I don't know what happened.
In the hearing, officers expressed outrage over Republicans unwilling to accept the reality of what occurred on that day.
The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
And then President Trump's conduct afterwards, defending the riots and calling them, quote, very loving, cuts these frontline officers deeply.
It's a pathetic excuse for his behavior for something that he himself helped to create, this monstrosity. I'm still recovering from those hugs and kisses that day that he claimed that so many rioters, terrorists, were assaulting us that day.
And many want the former president to be held responsible for the role he played.
If a hitman is hired and he kills somebody, the hitman goes to jail. But not only does the hitman go to jail, but the person who hired them does. There was an attack carried out on January 6th, and a hitman sent them. I want you to get to the bottom of that.
Representatives Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger are calling for their party to rise above the politics to find the truth of what happened January 6th.
College football season is already approaching. Coming up in sports, hear from our local coaches during this short off season.